easier the way. All right, so good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're back here again here at the lovely Brands Hatch, located at West Kingston in Kenton, England. Opened up in the 1920s, and then we saw our first Grand Prix back in the 1940s, where the old British Touring Car Championship made its outing back in the 40s, and I have been showing some great races all the way up until 2019, when we saw the last of the races in the DTM. GT3 championships before COVID rocked the racing world back in 2020 and 2021. But luckily we got to see some racing coming through. But as we get ourselves ready for TS2, we've had our first outings in the TS3, which was won by Shifty in the first race and then Vossi in the second race. We are now on to TS2, where we have the big hitters coming to join us tonight, where we've got the likes of Matt, and we've got Viperset, who's coming back from the racetrack at Eastern Creek, where he did some marshalling there. And it was a flag bearer at the back end of the track, ready for the cars to go green flag racing. But as we get ourselves here, we are on board with Sir Slayer 1991 in the It's Racing Esports Camp Honda NSX. Coming through towards Paddock Hill Bend, you want to try and take a nice slow entry, but try to make it nice and fast, but try not to run too wide on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend. Then coming through Druids Bend, a nice slow hairpin right-hander. Try to maximize that exit curve as much as you can. Use a little bit of that curbing to flick it left into Graham Hill Bend. Then you've got a nice little break before you come up through Surtees into turn 4 around the left-hander. Just gets a bit tail-happy there. Try not to run too wide on the exit there, otherwise you will get compromised and getting yourself caught on the gravel trap there. And then coming down through Hawthorne Hill and then coming up to Hawthorne Bend, a nice fast sweeper, right-hand sweeper. Try to take that inside line as much as you could. Then coming through to Westfield and Dingledale, and it's all a constant of right-handers, all mini corners before it leads up to Sheen Curve here. Try to clip as much of that inside as you can. Try not to trigger a half-second penalty. And then coming through Stirling's, it's the trickiest corners we've seen in TS3. A lot of spinners here, a lot of spinners around that track, around that corner. And then coming through Clark Curve for the last corner, and that sets the lap and the benchmark lap time. And so Slayer's got to get himself into the 1 minute 14.3, so not a bad lap for him. About 0.2 behind Duran 50 overall on the fastest lap, with Matt setting the fastest lap at a 1 minute 11.5 in practice. We'll have to wait and see what the lap times are in qualifying. But as we get ourselves underway very shortly, we do have Jarman in the voice chat, so hopefully we might be able to squeeze in a few words. Good afternoon, Jarman. Well, maybe not. That's all right. So he probably doesn't want to get his... Yeah, no. That's it. Yeah, yeah. You're not coming through the YouTube. But that's okay. Bit strange. That's all. That's all. Yeah, thought we could hear you, but yeah. One touch, quiet on that end, but that's all good. But as we get ourselves ready for qualifying, we have 12 runners coming in tonight. Then we have Viper coming through very shortly. Hopefully, like I said, he's making his way back from the Eastern Creek Raceway, or now known as Sydney Motorsport Park, where they just wrapped up the race 3, which was won by Anton De Pasquale over Will Brown in second place. And then over Jamie Whincup, it's rounding up the podium in the Sydney Motorsport Park Race 3 for the supercars, whereas a big long 4 weeks for the supercar drivers, and a big long 4 weeks for the likes of Viper Zed, Liam Tam, and disappointed Ryan Palmer, who are both working then as marshals, and have a big 4 weekends coming up for those guys. And then DJ himself will be heading over to Bathurst to do the Challenge Bathurst event, and then him and Liam will also be going to the Bathurst 1000 in December, so that'll be exciting to see. We've had our Bathurst 1000, but now we get to see the real deal as we get ourselves ready for qualifying. Robbo's kicked off qualifying, so all of our drivers are ready to go. We're ready to go here in the Com Box, where we are bringing you live at Brands Hatch at the Brands Hatch Racing Circuit here at West Kingston in Kent. My name is Spud P666, covering all the qualifying and the races here at Trackstars TS2. As we're about to get qualifying underway with the first cars running onto the track, it'll be Sir Slater 1991 leading the pack onto the track for the first out laps of this 3.9 kilometre circuit, which is a very technical track, a very hard track to get to negotiate around. Very minimal mistakes need to be made in order to get a race victory, or even you get yourselves onto the podium. But as we see the runners coming through, hopefully no pit glitches amongst the drivers tonight. And as we see Sir Slayer 1991 coming through Surtees on the exit of turn 4. So as we saw on his hot lap, it's a very tight, twisty circuit. It is very consequential when it comes to making a mistake there, because it could leave you to a half spin or a full 360 or 720, as most people like to put it. But then now, as we see, everyone looks like they've come out of the pits very nicely. No pit glitches, which is great. So Sir Slayer's about to come through onto Clark Curve, of course, to set his first lap here in the TS2 Honda NSX, rounding up Clark Curve. And as he starts his lap, we're going to get ourselves underway here for the first lap of TS2 qualifying. So Slayer leads the way coming into Paddock Hill Bend. How does he negotiate that? Very cleanly gets the car right up onto the inside there. Try not to take too much of that, as we saw with Dark 74 in TS3. Too much of that, and you go spinning into the gravel trap on the left-hand side. Coming through Graham Hill Bend, try to cut as much as you can, but not too much, and then get a nice wide exit onto the curbing there. Then coming into Surtees, a very long left-hander. Just be patient. It's all about patience, when to get on the throttle, because throttle up too early and your car's going to lose a lot of time on the exit of that. As he comes through to Hawthorne Bend, take that inside line very nicely. Gets right up onto the exit curbing there, and Matt does the same as well. He's right behind him as well. Try not to run too wide coming through Dingledale, and then coming up through Stirling. This is the most crucial part of the lap, or corner of the lap. Try not to go too wide and get yourself tyres on the grass there. And then coming through to Stirling Bend, try not to go too wide, otherwise you'll be going straight to the fence on the left-hand side. As he negotiates the final corner here at Clark Curve, the first lap's going to be set by Sir Slayer 1991. What is his lap going to be? It's going to be into the 13s. It is a 13.3, 13 flat, and then we see Matt eclipse that by almost 2 seconds there. So incredible pace there from Matt there. That's almost 2 seconds ahead, but Duran 50 comes through into second place, about 1.4 behind Matt there. And then we see the likes of a few drivers coming in. We saw Budsy go 4th fastest there, and then we see all the times go flying by. We're going to wait for the drivers to conclude their laps with Nightwalker 964, one of the good front runners, one of the nice front runners up there in the Trackstars TS2, as he goes up into 4th place. So nice showing there for Nightwalker. Little Blacko, the series leader of the TS2 Championship, up into 5th place there. Obviously, unfortunately for him, it's going to be a smooth sail run to the championship victory, unfortunately, where we've broadcasted that. Unfortunately, the Car 32 Toll Mashbuds Racing in Cylon 96 has unfortunately had to pull out of the series in both TS2 and Trackstars Formula 2 due to work commitments and just a lot of work and a lot of family stuff that he has to go through. But unfortunately for him, he's not able to complete the season. Unfortunately for Little Black, it would have been a decent finish towards the finish at St. Croix C in December. And yeah, unfortunately for him, unfortunately we're unable to get that dramatic climax of the championship between Little Blacko and Cylon. But nonetheless, Little Black, we can't say hasn't deserved the title this year. Bit of a struggle since the new boys have come into the series, but that race that he had at Bathurst was definitely an eye-opener for Little Blacko, and definitely one for him to say, all right, I've got the pace to run with these guys. I've got the consistency now back in it. And then unfortunately the next week rolled around, and that was the news when Silent 96 could no longer participate. So a bit of finding of the form for Blacko, but unfortunately his main rival in Cylon is no longer but a nice little cruise to the title for him on this occasion for Little Blacker in the number 14 RoboSport Racing Nissan GTR, bringing the title home to RoboSport Racing. Unfortunately, they couldn't do this. Unfortunately, they couldn't be able to do the same in the main series, where the likes of Colin T84 and Ridwan is just holding on in the RoboSport Racing cars, just trying to hold on, try to race with the front field. But unfortunately, none of those guys are within championship contention. So, big learning curve for RoboSport Racing, and hopefully 2022 brings out a new era for RoboSport Racing as we see Sir Slayer improve himself up into third place there in the number 931 It's Racing Esports Honda in third place over Nightwalker 964, with Little Blacker still in fifth place but still leading the way, and no challenges to Mint Matt in first place there. So as we get 2.5 minutes to go, we have our runners up at the front. We're just hoping to wait to see, hopefully you might be able to see Viper Set join in within the next 2 minutes, but if not, then that's okay. He might not be able to do race 1, but he'll definitely be able to do race 2, hopefully, fingers crossed. But as we see, Nightwalker's hanging on nicely. We did have a chat with the boss of the WRT Motorsport in Warpath 360 back in the TS3 coverage. A nice little chat there amongst myself and Warpath, and a good insight to see what the team's all about and how Warpath Warpaint racing team came along and their progression to hopefully maybe getting themselves in the main series next year alongside Nightwalker 964, and maybe a driver they can find in the TS2 category to partner Nightwalker 964 and hopefully get themselves in the main series next year. But time will tell. It is the 31st of October. It is the last days of entries, but also on this day, of course, it is Halloween. So happy Halloween to everybody. Hopefully everyone keeps it a COVID-safe Halloween, and I guess the one that is scaring all the drivers amongst us, it is a freaky Halloween, but the one guy that is scaring the field, it is Mint Matt. Hopefully that is not hopefully he's not wearing a Halloween costume whilst he's driving at the same time. That would be pretty cool as well if he was. Oh, look at that! Viper's just joined in at the last minute, so we will be able to get a red flag, and then Viper will be able to start the race at the back of the field there. So not something that Matt wanted to see, but I guess maybe for Matt it's a good. It might be a good challenge for him to hopefully get race 1 and maybe race 2, a bit of a battle between Matt and Viper Set in the BCG Racing Honda and the Lexus Satellite Racing Car 56. So Matt's is just cooling down his lap, and he's about to go onto his final hot lap here. So maybe just try and get the tyres up to temperature, and then trying to get this last lap to be the best lap that he could go. So coming up through to turn 1, I wonder if Duran 50 can improve his lap. It looks like he's improving. Oh, he's just 0.1 behind his time. How about Sir Slayer? Can he improve his lap? We'll have to wait and see as he crosses the line. No, he doesn't improve. So he's the last of the runners that can get a lap in. Matt makes a mistake there, and hopefully that's something not to see come race day. But as we see back down through the field, we're seeing people coming across the line right now. Hopefully there's no improvements on the cards so far. Little Blacko has improved his lap time, but not enough to topple off Nightwalker in 4th place there. Nightwalker hasn't improved. Luminous has improved his lap to be in the top 10. RoboSport in 7th. Rugworth in 8th. Mikes in the 1, 2, 3 RoboSport Racing. Can he improve his lap time? No, he's not. He's definitely all the way down. Almost in the 2-minute marker there, unfortunately for him. But we see Luminous improve his lap time. So there's only 2 drivers that can improve their lap times. It is this man, Duran 50 in the 50 CP Motorsports entry. Only about 0.05 up on his personal best. So not going to challenge Matt for pole position here, unfortunately. Unless he comes up with a mammoth final corner here at Clark Curve. But I hardly doubt it. I doubt you can find 1.4 seconds here at Clark Curve. But anything can happen. But can he improve his lap time? He does improve, but not enough to topple off Duran 50. What about Sir Slayer? Can he improve his lap? Can he take 2nd place off Duran 50? He does! He takes Duran's 52nd place there, and for Sir Slayer 1991 against Mint Matt there on an old Honda front row here for the TS2 qualifiers here. So we got a familiar name in Mint Matt taking pole position, but Sir Slayer, take a bow, Sir Slayer on the last lap there. Awesome for him to get that 2nd place there. But as we get ourselves underway for the for the beginning of race 2, we will do a red flag to get Viper on the track and maybe provide us with some action from the back of the field and hopefully get his way up onto the podium positions. So as we get the red flag underway, we'll have to cancel all the entries. Viper's in, and we'll have to get ourselves, at least hopefully someone's actually taken a picture of that grid, because the grid will have to be set manually on that one. So hopefully for those guys, hopefully for Robbo's sake, he's taken a picture of the grid and hopefully be able to change it up nicely, and hopefully I'll be able to change the grid up and hopefully to get it to people into their right positionings. But as we have now, we're now joined by our humbled TS2 commentator who couldn't join us for TS3, but now is here for TS2 for the beginning of race 1. We have DJ Ryan Palmer back with us. Welcome, buddy.
Yeah, it's been a very long weekend at the moment, but yeah, apologies I couldn't get here for the TS3, but I was yeah, it's a long weekend, but I'm here now, and good to see some racing on the other side of things.
Absolutely, yeah. How was it? Like, how was the experience back on the racetrack for you for the first time in a long time?
It was good hearing the cars, listening to them, and then smelling the E85. It's just yeah, fantastic. But yeah, very long, very hot. So I was out there at 8 o'clock this morning, and I didn't get off until 5:30 this afternoon. But looks like good old Viper Zed's also home as well, and he's jumped on, so he'll be ready to race this weekend to try and knock Matt off the top step.
We'll have to wait and see. Well, I don't know if you caught that at the end there, but so Slayer got himself got second place over Duran 50 there on the last lap there by only about 0.03. So we've got an all Honda front row, and the track definitely seems to suit the MR cars. That's for sure. We've seen that in the daily races, and we've seen that through early practice with the main cars. But I don't know. I'm not so sure about the TS2 cars, but it looks like but with a 1.3 second gap over Sir Slayer, you can say the Hondas do seem to fare better around this track compared to any of the other cars that we have on offering.
Yeah, I had a bit of a practice in obviously the Lexus, and then I was pretty fast in practice, and then Woodsy was in there too, and obviously yourself. We had quite a few people in there, but yeah, I jumped in the MR car, and it definitely seemed a lot stronger around the back section of the track. Yeah, so I'm not overly sure how the Lexus and Nissans are going to go. But yeah, it should be a decent race.
Exactly right. So we've got our drivers in. We've got Viper Zed probably rushing from home. Probably, hopefully, wasn't driving like a V8 supercar around the streets of Sydney, trying to get back to his home. But well, who knows? But he is in. He did make it just before the cutoff. He made it with about 2 minutes to go or something like that. It was crazy. So had he made it just after qualifying, I think he would have had to have missed that first race, unfortunately. So very unlucky for him. Very lucky for him to make it on that one.
Yeah, we said, I'm like, oh, you might be able to race 1, but if not, you'll make race 2. So he goes, yep, collected all the pink bibs for the Chiefs there, because I don't know if people know he's actually a deputy at Eastern Creek at the moment, so he has a bit of seniority towards him. But yeah, he quickly grabbed all his stuff and jumped in his car and got home. So it's good to see him on the grid starting race 1. But I'm assuming he's probably starting from the back.
Yeah, he'll be starting at the back there alongside with Devlin, Calypso and Luminous. So it is a track that is very hard to make a move around here, but we've seen in the TS3 coverage, obviously you haven't been able to see the TS3 coverage. We did have the likes of, we had 3 debutants tonight in the TS3. We had Dark 74 finally making his racing debut, and he was actually in the Lexus SC430, and he took pole position by at least 8/10 over the fastest Nissan in Warpath 360.
Yeah, I kind of jumped in a little tiny bit. I think it was about 4:30. I think you guys were in between your 2 races after I just come off yellow flags, and I did see Dargs up the front, and then Vossi in 3rd place. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the guy in 1st, but yeah, it was very long day.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's right. Well, I did say. Well, Shifty was the debut driver. He won his first race. And won the first race on his debut race, and then we had Vossi take out the second race, where Shifty made a bit of a mistake there, coming through the back end of the track through Westfield Bend and Dingledale, and that unfortunately gave Vossi the lead of the race with 5 laps to go. And then he was running in second place, and then he makes a mistake on Stirling down at Stirling's on the final lap, so that dropped him down to 4th place. So very unlucky for Shifty there to not get a second place. But anywho, that is TS3 done and dusted. We are now here for TS2. So we've got myself, Enspud P666, and DJ in the com box tonight. So good to have him back in the com box as we see Matt, Sir Slayer, Duran 50 rounding up the top 3 with Nightwalker 964. And we had to keep our eyes on Viper set down the back in 12th place as we wait for those lights to go green. Will it be Matt? Will it be Sir Slayer at turn 1? It is lights out, green flag racing, and Matt's got himself a poor start there, and Sir Slayer's going to dig around the outside. Can he take first place coming into the first corner? No, he doesn't. So Matt, with that second phase of the launch, has got himself into first place there with Sir Slayer back in second, and Budsy coming through. Oh, solid move there by Budsy, almost making up 2 positions there, and he's going to go side by side with Duran 50 in 3rd place there. And does he make the move stick? He does. So he's come through from 6th place all the way up into 3rd place to take about Budsy. And we see Viper's Head coming through, and Little Blacko has gone off there. He's gone off down at Graham Hill Bend there, going off maybe a bit of contact with one of his teammates or one of the drivers there down at the back there. But unfortunately for him, that drops him all the way down into 12th place, down to 12th place there. Did he get a hit? No, he didn't. So he actually did that all by himself, and that is very costly. And I guess for these kind of cars, it is a very good insight to what the main series is going to be like with how slippery the cars are. But we see Matt leading the way ahead of Sir Slayer, and Budsy 76, an astonishing and an amazing start for Budsy 76 in the number 76 there, with Duran 50 in 4th and Nightwalker in 5th. But Viper's Head coming through from 12th to 6th on the opening lap, DJ.
Yeah, it was a very, very outstanding start there by some drivers, especially Budsy. He's really started to show his colours at the moment, so he's really in a little bit of a tussle here with Duran as he just misses the apex there. But yeah, I don't know if I'm right, but that time from Matt in qualifying was an 11.1. Is that right?
It was about, I think it was at 11.3, yeah, so it was definitely in the 11s, that's for sure.
Yeah, and if I'm correct, I'll have a look here. No, it wasn't 11.1, it was an 111.119, so...
Oh, yeah, yep.
Under TS2 pace, on TS2 specs, mate, I'm telling you, that's on main pace at the moment, so he's flying in that Honda. But yeah, Viper's Head's come through to 6, and he did say, he goes, I'm just going to have some fun and try and fight through the field. I don't know how much practice he's had, to be honest, at the moment, so I think he might be going in blind. But we probably saw a lot in the formulas with cars going off and stuff like that, and spinning and collecting engine damage and stuff. But I don't know about you, I think the touring cars just carry a little bit more weight through the corners, so you kind of got to be really caress it through there. But Duran looks like he's overtaken Budsy there for 3rd place. So Budsy's dropped down to 4th, and he's got Nightwalker and Viper's Head harassing him for that 4th place.
Budsy's becoming a bit of the cork in the bottle in 4th place, holding up Nightwalker 964, and Viper's Head coming from 12th place up into 6th. So great stuff for him as Nightwalker gives Budsy a little bit of a tap there just to try and slow his car down, but they're going side by side going to Graham Hill Bend. Does he make the move? No, he doesn't. So he's going to have to sit back a little bit, and Viper's just biding his time, being patient. But Nightwalker's got a bit of a better run. Does Budsy go wide? He runs a bit wide, but he actually clips the apex very nicely there. So different lines by different drivers on turn 4 there through Surtees, and it's a very hard line because you've got to really wait for the car just to get to the corner before you can plant the throttle down.
Yeah, they get very twitchy through that section there, but I'll be willing to see how the main series go, obviously with the extra power and less weight. So I'll definitely be interesting to see. I feel like we might have a couple of safety cars tonight.
Oh, as we see cars go wide, we see Nightwalker and Budsy go wide. We're going to see 3 wide. Can Viper take advantage? He does, and he gets himself up to the 4th place. So that's 2 free spots for Viper's Head, and Viper's Head takes the pickings out of a Budsy and Sir Slayer moment there, and that is a great clean pass by Viper's Head. So from 12th to 4th place, and man, he's come to play. Whether he's got a tune or whether he's running stock, regardless, Viper's Head is the man on the charge.
Yeah, certainly. He's certainly got his head around that Lexus at the moment. But yeah, 12th to 4th or 13th to 4th place, that's outstanding with obviously 4 laps in. So he might be pulling a bit of a Will Brownie, so charging through, trying to close the gap to the front pack there. So he's got a 3.8 second gap there to Duran. So we'll see how that Lexus handles with about 8 or 9 laps to go. So I'll be definitely keeping an eye out for Viper, especially in race 2.
We run through the grid. We have Mint Matt leading the way ahead of Sir Slayer 1991 as we see Viper just run a bit wide through Dingledale there, and then he's getting a bit of the left-hand side on the grass there. So he's not been, he's been, as we've seen through the coverages through the Porsche Cup and even the formulas, he's been struggling a little bit just around those section of corners. I mean, I guess that's for everybody as well, but for him especially, obviously, he is a front runner in the Formula 2s and in the TS2 cars, and the Porsches as well. So a few little mistakes creeping in through Viper's set, but we did see a moment for Matt there in the qualifying on his final lap. He just went a little bit too aggressive on the exit of Graham Hill Bend in turn 3, and he just put it in the wall there. So like we always say, everyone's human, Matt's human, Viper's human, so mistakes do happen. So hopefully we get a few more mistakes, we might be able to see a new winner, and perhaps Sir Slayer 1991. But it looks like he's got a good gap over Sir Slayer as we see him and Duran 50 getting really close to each other. Duran's closed that gap massively. I can see on the mini-map there's almost about a 1.2, maybe 1.3 second gap between Sir Slayer and Duran 50. But as we look down the grid, we see Nightwalker actually makes the move on Budsy, so he must have made a mistake there for Budsy. And Rugworth in 7th with RoboSport in 8th place. And then I do see back there it is actually Luminous in 9th place there, so nice holding up for him. Devlin Calypso is in 10th place, and then we have probably I would say Mikes and Little Blacko in 11th and 12th place there. So yeah, unfortunate for the RoboSport boys in Mikes and Little Blacko. Just a bit of a horror start for those boys, but not so much for Robbo. He's hanging on nicely in 8th place.
Yeah, obviously we've seen Robbo have a really rough run at the moment in the TS2 and the Formula 2. He's just kind of getting in the wrong spot at the right time and getting, unfortunately, either taken out or something like that from another car, or just running a little bit wide. And yeah, he's having a bit of a rough time at the moment. And we do know that he's challenging the championship with Blacko at the moment, so hopefully he'll be able to close that gap there with obviously Xylon pulling out of the series. But right now we've got Jerem all over the back of Sir Slayer here, so we'll see if Sir Slayer can hold the pressure off from Jerem, because we do know that they are both very fast drivers. But look at that, who's lurking in the background there in 4th place. You can see him just in the back of the distance there, and he's really closing that gap.
He's closed that gap massively, but full credits to Sir Slayer 1991 holding his own in 2nd place there, not flustered at all by Duran 50, but we'll have to wait and see. We're not even halfway through this race, DJ, and we're about to get into lap 7 or 13 here, and we're about to see, hopefully we might be able to see a challenge from 5% closing up very rapidly on Duran 50 in 3rd place, and with Sir Slayer in 2nd, and Matt's just pulled away with an 8.8 second lead over Sir Slayer. So definitely a class above the rest of the field, but provides us good viewing to see the likes of Duran 50, Sir Slayer, and even Viper coming through the back of the field. It's always nice to see a guy like Viper come through the back and just see what he can do from 12th place. But so far, from 12th to 4th, you could say that's a pretty good start. He was probably looking at a podium just to make him happy.
Yeah, he'd definitely be looking at the podium. He did say that to me. He just goes, "Oh, I'll try and get up the front and give Matt a bit of a hassle." So that 10-second gap looks a bit too far if he does catch these two guys at the front. But he has closed that gap down from about 3.8 to 2.3. So Jerem ran a little bit wide there coming onto the back straight as he runs really, really close to the grass there as well. So you don't want to be doing too much of that, because you'll just be opening that gap, and then he'll have Viper on the back of him. So I wonder how fat he can make that Nissan with the Lexus fast approaching him.
Yeah, and I think it's because the dirty air really comes into effect with these cars. We didn't really see too much of that we did see quite a fair bit of that in the TS3, as following the cars was a little bit tricky for the likes of Vossi and then a few of the guys at the back there. Just when they follow in the dirty air, then they just drift a bit wide onto the grass and onto the grass clippings there, and we see mistakes. So a little bit unfortunate. So it looks like Duran 50's just got caught up in that dirty air from Sir Slayer there, and I think Sir Slayer's definitely holding his own there, but as you said, Viper is closing that gap. He's not closing He's closing fast, but we've got some good sections from Viper said he's closing that gap up to about 2 seconds there, coming through Hawthorn Hill and into Hawthorn Bend. And looks like we're going to be able to see, possibly, maybe towards the end of the race, we might be able to see a three-way battle for second.
Yeah, definitely. But you can see just here as well that there's a little bit. There's like what 2 or 3 seconds separating position 6 all the way back to 8. So if Budsy makes a little bit of mistake, you never know, mate. He might end up back in 9th place and then let Rugworth through and Robbo. So Luminous is having a really nice showing there in 9th as well. So we haven't really seen much of Luminous at the moment. But tell you what though, it's a lot better being on this side of things than the one not on the keyboard controlling here we're watching.
Yeah, you always do a little bit too much there when it comes to finding the cars and just hitting the replay action when you see it. But look, luckily we've got Jarman for that to give you a little bit stress-free run when it comes to being the cameraman. But obviously displaying really nice coverage there, really nice 1080 60p there from its racing side of the PlayStation, which is awesome to see. But we see Sir Slayer getting really hounded now again by Duran 50, but Viper's closed that gap to probably about 1.5 seconds behind Duran 50 there. But Sir Slayer leading the way in 2nd place with Duran 50 in 3rd, and Viper lurking in the background in 4th place with only 4.5 laps to go until the first race is over. Looks like the 12.6 seconds gap between Matt and Sir Slayer is definitely not going to be challenged unless Matt makes a really big mistake in one of the corners here coming up the top of the hill, because this gravel trap at the top of the hill at Sheen Curve can really slow the car down, and that way you lose a lot of time amongst your competitors.
Yeah, and even around the last corner onto the main straight, you run a little tiny bit wide, you get on that sand, and you can't turn the car back onto the track there. You just follow it in the sand, and then you lose like 3 or 4 seconds. And if I remember correctly, I think you'd done that in the formulas.
Yeah, we just run a little bit too wide, try to get the car hooked back onto the track, but yeah, just didn't want to go. You have to like really let off the throttle to try and let the car go through. But I did have a look at a glimpse of the leaderboard there. I did see Budsy was 6. He's dropped all the way down there, so you called it, DJ. One mistake goes from Budsy and he's dropped himself all the way down to the back of the pack. So that really, it is a bit consequential there. So we've just missed where he made that mistake though. He must have made it up towards the Sheen Curve there, run a bit wide, but he's down into 10th place there. So from being as high up as 3rd all the way down to 10th place, not the race that he wanted to have after that dream start, but lots to learn for him. But as we look back through the front of the field, we see Rugworth ahead of Robbo Sport. Those two are battling it out in the championship, trying to get that 2nd place where Xylon 96 can't hold that 2nd place lead, unfortunately, anymore. That'll be between Rugworth and Robbo Sport that'll try and battle it out for 2nd place. But so far, Rugworth's got Robbo's number in 6th place with Robbo Sport in 7th. But we look back now, we see Viper really closing that gap on Duran 50 within sights of Sir Slayer, within sights of Duram and Sir Slayer there. But look at that, but Duram's actually lost ground to Sir Slayer there. So Sir Slayer's doing an excellent job here in the car 931 It's Racing Esports Honda. So he's doing really well to keep that car straight, not get flustered by Duram, and especially not get flustered by Viper.
Yeah, and even just holding that NSX around here, like it is a little bit of a struggle to get the power down, obviously being the MR, and some of the corners being a little bit off camber. But yeah, he must have a really nice setup there. So I wonder if Matt might have worked with Slayer a little bit there and maybe given him a setup or worked with him on the track. Or I'm not overly sure there, but yeah, maybe that might be a bit of potential for next year. So we'll wait and see what happens. But this is going to be Duran a little bit wide there.
Oh, he just saved it on the entry onto Dingledale there. So very close there for Duran 50 to lose 3rd place, but Viper's closed the gap massively there. So he's watching these guys thinking, well, one of them makes a mistake, that I'm going to take that position for the taking for sure. But Duran 50 is so close to running too wide there. And when you run a bit wide, you've got an Armco on the left-hand side that has your name written all over it if you go a bit too wide coming through Dingledale there.
Yeah, I think really if you run wide anywhere, you've got an Armco with your name on it. Even near sand, you can paint some pictures in the sand with your tyres. So it's a unique circuit, I guess, for one. But obviously we see on TV with a lot of the World Touring Car Championship with all like the Astras and the i30s and stuff like that. So it's like more of a hot hatch kind of track, I guess, in a way.
Well, we've seen the likes of the old Formula One cars come around here through the 1960s and all the way up to 1984, and then we see the DTMs race around here. Back at the last race was back in 2019. Then we have the British touring cars. Then we have as you said, the TCRs as well. Even the super bikes around here. So it has a big variety of sizes of cars that they run around this track. They drive around this track here. So I guess for our Super GT cars, the Honda, Nissan, and Lexus cars, they seem to fare really nicely around this track here. But like you said, it does provide challenges. But here we are. We're on the final lap here, ladies and gentlemen. That lap has gone quickly, and Sir Slayer's pulled out a really nice gap over Duran 50, and Duran 50's now got the pressure of Viper Z and the 56 Satellite Racing Lexus all over the back of his tail here. So it's going to be a battle between those guys here, because I feel like Sir Slayer's just holding a good enough lead there. Just runs a bit wide there through Graham Hill Bend there. So hopefully he manages to keep that second place there, and that'll be an astonishing effort for Sir Slayer to hold off second place over Duran and Viper Z.
Yeah, it'd be certainly one to watch here, but as always, Matt coming in that BCG Honda NSX. So I wonder if anyone is gonna challenge him for race 2, because at the moment if you give Matt clean air in any series, he just runs away with it. But a big congratulations there to Mid Matt in position 1, taking the win there, followed by Sir Slayer and Duran. Viper running a little bit wide there, coming through that corner, it's not hard to do there. You run a bit too hot in there, and you get on the gas a little bit too early, and you run a bit wide. But yeah, big congratulations there to It's Racing, Sir Slayer, CP Motorsports Duran, and Satellite Racing Viper Z there, taking out the top 4.
Absolutely, and a brave effort there for Sir Slayer 1991, a strong race for him as well. And then we see the likes of Nightwalker 964 in 5th place, getting really close is Ruckworth in 6th and Robbo Sport in 7th place. Those two are having a really nice battle in the formulas only last week there, Ruckworth and Robbo, but it looks like Ruckworth's got over Robbo there. He has just. It takes 6th place there, with Luminous having a nice top 8 there for Luminous there. I mean, we've only had 12 runners there, but everyone makes mistakes, and he came out on top with 8th place. So really nice work there for Luminous in the Kiwi pit lane. Nissan GTR with Budsy in 9th place and Mikes in 10th, where we had Devlin Calypso in 11th place and Little Blacko all the way down there after that first lap mistake coming down on the exit of Graham Hill Bend there, and that just cost him dearly. Thankfully for him, luckily there's no Xylon 96 in the championship for him. Yeah,
it's I don't know. It's a bit sad seeing Xylon not there, but obviously family and personal things come up, and people have kind of got to do what they got to do. But yeah, no, it's pretty solid win there by Matt. But I wonder if Viper can punch through on the restart, get a good start in that Lexus. But as we know, the start is off camber, so if you do plan it, your car will go sideways off the start, and you'll really lose the back end there. But yeah, it's a bit rough there. But Blacko 8 laps down. I'm not overly sure what happened there. It might be a bit glitched out, but yeah, that's
maybe I think maybe when he realised he just made a mistake on lap 1, and then maybe he made a mistake during the race. He just probably decided to put the car in the pits, retire the car, and probably regroup and gather up for a race 2 here at Trackstars TS2. But as we got ourselves a special guest here, hopefully it wasn't speeding around the streets of Sydney to get back home onto his simulator. But we do have a one Viper Z here. Nice performance there from 12th place up to 4th place, up into 4th. So good battle there towards the end, but unfortunately couldn't get Duran 50 and Sir Slayer 1991.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, good to have made it back. Can confirm there was minimal speeding. So if there's any coppers listening, don't you worry. I was perfectly legal on the way home. Yeah, got the elbows out a little bit in the first lap. Just tried to make as many spots as I could early on. Was pretty stoked when I got to the back of Duran and Sir Slayer so early, but ultimately there was just nowhere I could really throw it. There were a couple places I was really close to Duran, but I didn't want to commit to a move that was possibly going to send us both off, so I thought better to just sort of hold on, and they did really well under pressure, so all kudos to them.
Yeah, and I was going to say this. It's a very hard track to make an overtake around here, especially in these Group 2 Super GT GT500s. it's really hard to try and make a move amongst the guys like Duran 50 and Sir Slayer. So you must have found it pretty hard. Being beneath the wing of Duran 50 in that dirty air must have cost you a fair bit of time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way the dirty air washes off these Super GT cars, you just lose a lot of grip in behind. I mean, you guys know perfectly well how hard it is to get behind these guys. So I think I was more happy actually just coming through the field, grabbing the overtakes that I could on, like Robbo and Miquez. I was just able to capitalize on a couple mistakes. Otherwise, I could have been stuck back there for a lot longer than I was.
Exactly right. And as we see, the good praise is there for Sir Slayer. Great performance here. Great performance for him to snatch P2 away from Duran 50 in that qualifying. So he just missed. I don't know if he just caught the back end of that, but he just pipped Duran 50 to take second place by only about 0.03 of a second there. And that's, I guess in a way, that's the big difference when it comes to the start positions of this track, because you could say it's like a Monaco and a Hungaroring in a way, that pole position, qualifying is key to track position.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, nailing your quali lap is just so crucial around here, and it's one of those tracks where even just nailing a quali lap isn't the easiest of tasks. I mean, we've seen time and time again people make mistakes at this track. I mean, I made so many errors in the F2 race here last week, but luckily with my track position I was able to hold ahead. So TJ having a bit of a laugh at that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I did message him. I'm like, mate, what are you doing there going off? And he goes, I was looking back. And he goes, I probably shouldn't have been, but I looked forwards and then there was sand. And I was just like, well, mate, need to look forwards in that part of the track.
Exactly right. Oh well, happens to the best of us, get caught up on something, and then all of a sudden there's either a wall or a sand trap. So very unlucky there. But if we have a little bit more time here, how was the? So you just came back from the Sydney Motorsport Park, and we just had a little chat with DJ about the experience of getting back into the real racing world. How was it on your end? How good was it to be back on the supercars grid?
Fantastic. I mean, there's only so much that itch that online racing can scratch. So when you get actually out there, and obviously it's not the same, we don't get to get out on track ourselves in the cars, but just being there and hearing the noise and the atmosphere and having fans out there for the first time in so long was just such a relief, and it really felt like something was normal again, and it was, it's just so good to be back on circuit.
And you didn't hear it, but we went out on track, and then all of a sudden we were just walking up there, taking our spot on the grid, and then someone just yells out, Liam! And we're just like, oh, someone's got a fan.
Yeah, so I've got a mini fan club apparently.
Yeah, so you should have seen the smile on his face. It was pretty big.
No, that didn't exist. You're imagining that. There was no smile. Pure confusion.
It's hard to see a smile behind a mask, mate, but obviously that's quite funny.
Yeah, we are a bit sunburned.
Yeah. I can imagine that. But yeah, you being at the back of the field, waving the green flag and hearing the roar of the V8 engines, how good was that? Just like hearing that for the first time, and probably like maybe the last time you did that was maybe last year at Bathurst or back at Sydney Motorsport Park last year.
It's been some time. So the last time I was in that position in particular would have been the Mount Panorama 500.
Okay.
So I got to stand at the back there. I've been doing this role since the Super Night last year, so very privileged to be one of the only people allowed to do that at the moment, which is great. Yeah, I had a little tickle with it again at the 6 hour earlier this year, but it's not the same. I mean, they're not V8 supercars. You don't get the noise, the rumble, the stupid amounts of heat coming out the side exit exhaust. It's just the whole package, really.
Yeah, I think so many people want to have that job that you've got, like just standing at the back there and just hearing the V8s just rumbling, and then you just see them take off the line. It's so awesome to see there. So that was a great, awesome racing all around. A little bit quiet amongst the field there. It was a little bit hard for overtaking, and then side wear really came into effect with some of the drivers there. So unfortunately, didn't really get to see many safety cars. But I guess it's a track not really known for safety cars.
Exactly right. It's not too safety car prone. I mean, a lot of the track's been developed over the years. You look at Eastern Creek as compared to, say, 15, 16 years ago, and it's it's still the same layout, but so many things have been done just to improve not only the quality of racing, but just the safety around the place. And it shows, I mean, it can be a little bit boring the way that we don't get the safety cars and we don't have the incidents that we might have seen 15 years ago. But I think we get a better end result.
Yeah, exactly right. So now we look forward to race 2 here at TS2 Trackstars. What are you looking forward to for this race coming up? Do you feel like you can make some early moves on Duran and Sir Slayer to try to challenge Matt for the victory?
I will certainly try. If I can get to Matt early enough, I'm going to make his life a living hell if I can. But I know he has got a lot of pace in that NSX right now, so he'll be very hard to beat.
All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing that progression up towards the front, and hopefully you can get yourself a second place. So thanks for joining in, Viper. Good luck for your race 2 events.
Thanks, fellas.
So as we gear up for race 2, ladies and gentlemen, we got ourselves a classic battle between Matt, Sir Slayer, Duran 50, and Viper Z all occupying the first front row of 4 slots on the Brands Hatch circuit as we get race 2 underway. DJ, who have we got our money on, placing our bets? Who have we got our Monopoly money on tonight for race 2?
It's kind of hard to pick at the moment, but obviously It's Racing would put his Monopoly money on Matt in his teammate, but as always, and you probably know, I got to put my Monopoly money on my teammate. But if he can get that Lexus off the line, he's pretty known to make that Lexus pretty fat, pretty wide. But we'll wait and see what happens in this race. So I wonder if Sir Slayer can also repeat the start, and maybe even Budsy as well. So we'll wait and see. But until then, mate, I need to go get some food, so I'll be back in a second.
As we see Matt, Sir Slayer, Duran 50, as we hear the engines rumbling, as we wait for those lights to go green, it is lights out, green flag racing. Matt gets a bit of wheel spin, and Viper Z comes through the middle there, and he's got himself the jump that he needs, the perfect jump that Viper needed from 4th place to 2nd, and he's going to be challenging Matt coming into Druids Bend there. Can he make the move on the inside? No, he doesn't. Can he hold around the outside of Matt there? No, he doesn't, so he's going to be stuck behind Matt there, behind the dirty air of the Honda NSX, but Matt leads the way ahead of Viper Z, as Sir Slayer in 3rd drops down and Duran 50 drops down to 4th place. But what a start there by Viper Z from 4th place on the grid there, right on the back of Matt there, and going to be getting a good challenge there. So like he said at the start, he wants, like Viper Z said, he wants to get that start over Sir Slayer and Duran 50, and he executed that perfectly. So we've got ourselves a classic here, ladies and gentlemen. Matt versus Viper. Who can come out on top? Let us know in the chats below, let us know in the comments below who can make that start there. But we look down through the field, we see Budsy's come through the field there very nicely up into 6th place. Then we see Luminous go a little bit of a mistake there. So, looks like that's happened back on the exit of Graham Hill Bend there, and then just went from bad to worse down at Surtees. So good performance in his first race, not so much in his second, but hopefully he might be able to regroup and try and get salvage what he can. But we have the first lap completed. It is Matt over Viper in 2nd place, with Sir Slayer in 3rd, Duran in 4th, Nightwalker holding his own and a good consistent 5th place, but he's got the likes of Rugworth and Budsy coming up to the tail of him very shortly there. But we've got Sir Slayer again holding that position over Duran 50, and Nightwalker's coming to the party there to try and occupy and trying to spoil the party for Sir Slayer and try and get 3rd place.
Yeah, I can see that gap there between Matt and Viper is definitely gapped out there. But yeah, Sir Slayer's doing an excellent job. I'd definitely be a very proud team boss seeing him do that. So it's not only hard keeping it in, obviously, the top 3, top 4, top 5, but fending off someone, obviously, the likes of Duran and Nightwalker and stuff like that, and even Viper. But I did have the start playing on my other monitor, and I seen the start, and yeah, Viper really got the jump. That was fantastic.
So Slayer runs a bit wide. Does he save it? Oh, he saved it. Oh, that was a great save by Sir Slayer there. Unfortunately, loses a position to Duran 50. So finally, Duran 50 doesn't have to look at the back of the 931 It's Racing Honda, and now he can have some clean air and try to get as close as he can to Viper's there. But Sir Slayer runs wide again on the exit of Clark Curve there, and he just loses positions to Nightwalker, so it's going from bad to worse. The last couple of corners of Sir Slayer has been terrible on lap 2 of 13 here, and he drops all the way from 3rd to 5th, and he's got Rugworth right behind him with Budsy and Robbo not too far.
Yeah, it looks like the dirty tyres really affected him there coming into the next corner onto the front straight. But yeah, that's definitely a hard one. He just obviously copped a bit of commentator's curse, but Rugworth runs a little bit wide there, so we'll see what Nightwalker can do if he can close the gap onto Duran. But Budsy's moved his way up into 7th place, so we'll see if he can chase down his counterpart in Rugworth. But he's being harassed at the moment by Robbo, so it'd be good to see Robbo get a pretty solid performance here, because obviously, as we were saying earlier, he hasn't had much luck at the moment with all these new drivers coming through. But seems to me like it's kind of happening in the normal supercars as well. Like all these youngsters coming through are really starting to overtake the vets and the people who've been in the series longer. So it's I don't know. It's maybe they might need to go for them for some pointers. But yeah, it's definitely some good racing. So
I think for Budsy's sake, he's probably just going to be fending off Robbo and Blacko just for a little bit, because he knows that Rugworth is ahead of him clearly in the standings, but he knows that Robbo and Minkes are not far behind Rugworth in the championship. So I wonder if Budsy's going to play a little bit of a rear gunner for Rugworth in the MSRVL Racing 74 there. So hopefully for him, for his sake, he might be able to... Oh, commentator's curse there, unfortunately, and Budsy has gone well wide on the exit of Graham Hill Bend there. What was going to be a solid performance for him, and just very unfortunate, wrong place, wrong time. Commentator's curse of Budsy. I do apologise, my friend.
yeah, and he looks like he missed the apex a little tiny bit there coming into the next corner, which he may... Oh no, he didn't get passed by Devlin, so that would have been really unfortunate if he dropped there another position. But yeah, maybe Robbo might be able to pull it a little bit time here on Rugworth. As you can see, it's slightly coming down. But yeah, that corner is where Budsy spun is definitely a known one for drivers to spin, as we did see in the F2 and the Formula Series too. So
yeah, we saw Woods run a bit wide there on the safety car restart, and he just put it into the fence there, unfortunately, on his end. But as we look at through the field, we're on lap 5 of 13, but Matt's pulled a gap 3.5 seconds over Viper Z in 2nd place, and Duran 50 in 3rd place, with Nightwalker a nice performance here, just keeping it clean, keep it consistent in 4th place. 5th and a 4th will do him wonders for Nightwalker in his championship quest, and hopefully for championship status in the main series next year. But we'll have to wait and see. I did have a chat with Warpath 360 earlier on in the TS3, and he's been telling me a lot of good things about the team and about the drivers that he's got lined up for next year. And Nightwalker is definitely going to be looking out for drivers to hopefully partner him in the main series next year.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very, very, very hard one for us to pick next year. Obviously, with GT7 not allowing for extra drivers, but they may surprise us. They may say, nah, no extra drivers, and then the game comes out and they allow for, say, 18 or 19 car grids. So that'd really definitely be in our favour. But yeah, so Matt is outstandingly quick here. He's doing a 111.1 on TS2 specs, and that's approaching main series time. So I don't know.
Well, you're going to look at these cars. They've got 40 liters of fuel in their car, so they're definitely running a lot lower, so they can get that faster lap time in. So maybe for main series, we might be looking into that. Probably within that time range as well, maybe into the 10s for qualifying. We'll have to wait and see. But we did see Blacko make the move on Robbo Sport. Maybe Robbo gave that position to Blacko, but I guess in a way you can't really give a position to Blacko, because he's got the championship more or less sealed, signed and delivered to Robbo Sport Racing for the first time in their championship history. Trackstars getting a championship for Little Blacko in TS2, but he runs a bit wide on the exit of Surtees, so that is very common for drivers to do that. But he looks like he stayed on track very nicely, so nice work Blacko there. But he's going to be charging and probably harassing Rugworth over the next 6.5 laps to go, with Budsy in 9th, Minkes in 10th, Devlin 11th, and Luminous making a move on Devlin there. A nice move going into Hawthorne Bend there to make an 11th place. So we've got 12 runners here in Trackstars TS2, but the one driver leading the way with no challenge so far belongs to Matt, ahead of Viper and Duran 50 in the podium standings.
Yeah, so we're about to be halfway through the race here. So there's not really a halfway mark. It's kind of 6.5 laps. So Matt's currently on lap 7 of 13. So we just crossed over the halfway mark, and it's going to be a very, very quick showing tonight. So each race is going to be about 15 minutes or so. So it's definitely a short sprint race. But I'm a bit worried there that Matt's found some speed in that Honda there that we might not have found in the Lexus, and he'll definitely be passing it on to Jarman. So I'd be definitely watching my rear view or in front of me for that 95. So a little bit of a worry at the moment, but we'll see how that goes.
Exactly, but as I look at the mini map, I can see the gaps are pretty spreading out. So you've got a few little battle packs there in the mid pack. We see probably Nightwalker and Sir Slayer is only the battle pack that is really of concern there. So he's about 1.1 behind. Or as I do say that, Sir Slayer makes a big mistake coming up into Sheen Curve there and just runs well wide there. And that's going to invite Rugworth and Little Blacko into it. So maybe Rugworth might be thinking, well, 6 was good, but maybe can I get a 5th? Surely not.
Yeah, it'd be really nice to see Rugworth get a top 5 here in that Lexus. He's been very, very consistent this season, so you probably have seen him, and he's really harassing the back of that Honda NSX of Slayer there, but the move really isn't really on there into turn 1. That dirty air really made him lose that inside line, so he missed the apex a little bit there, but yeah, if anyone wants to try and make a move into turn 1, please second guess yourself, because 2 wide through there usually doesn't work.
Only the bravest can do it to pull an inside move into Paddock Hill Bend, but unfortunately for Rugworth, a bit like you said, the dirty air just kicked in for him and it just ran a bit too wide there. So Slayer's not having the best race here compared to that first race that he had there. Just got startled at the stump at the start by Viper Z. With that launch by Viper was incredible, and then I think Sir Slayer just from then it just hasn't been able to find a groove in this race. Maybe a little setup change in his car, and maybe just it's not the right way of direction for him in race 2 so far.
Yeah, or he picks up half a second penalty here too, so he's definitely got a burnout on the front straight, so that might drop him back down to 8th place.
Oh, the worst possible place there. 1.3 behind Rugworth. He might be able to keep it. I'm not too sure. He pulls off. He does. Does he get on the power? Does Rugworth overtake him? Oh, he's just held on to that just. So Sir Slayer, that's a relief for Sir Slayer, absolutely, and just fends off Rugworth and Little Blacker there. So very fine margins here, ladies and gentlemen. When it comes to track limits, it is a bit hard to get it. I mean, these cars are pretty fast and they cut through the corners pretty quickly. It runs wide again, so there's a setup change that Slayer has done, and it just hasn't worked out for him in this race.
Yeah, no, I don't know about you, but definitely setup changes during races are not one thing you really want to do, because you'll be settled into the car, you make one setup change, and it all of a sudden either doesn't turn or turns too much. So it's kind of not really one thing that I do emphasize myself. But hey, every driver's different, and if they want to make a change, and go right ahead. But I don't recommend it personally. But yeah, it's a bit weird to see him now running in 5th place and maybe struggling a little tiny bit there with that Honda. But Rugworth is putting in a very solid 6th place here, but he's got Blacko slowly approaching him. So I wonder if he might be able to close the gap there and maybe possibly take that 6th place off Rugworth there.
Exactly, and as the field is pretty spread out, there's not really much battle packs except for the battle for 5th place. But I feel like Sir Slayer's just pulled a bit more of a gap there, 1.8 over Rugworth there. So it looks like Sir Slayer's just had a bit of a sigh of relief there, and just needs to cool his head down and just try and consolidate 5th place, and probably that might be able to get him either 3rd or 4th place overall in the standings at the end of this round. But we'll wait and see. But Rugworth has definitely got his hands on Little Blacko there, and he knows that this is going to be the 1 and 2 in the championship, with Little Blacko taking the championship. Looks like he's definitely going to be taking the championship unless he misses the rest of the season, like Zylo 96. I hardly doubt it. So we'll definitely see him take the championship, but Rugworth in 2nd place will definitely take 2nd place of Zylo 96. But you could definitely say Rugworth has definitely been the quiet achiever here. We had the likes of my guys in JMX running up as high up as 3rd place in the standings, as well as Blacko runs wide and he goes full 360, and his teammate as well. So a concertina between the Robo Sport boys. And looks like Budsy behind there almost went full 360 as well there. So a bit of that's a very unlucky event, a fortunate event that happened between the Robo Sport guys. That was incredible. Good sequence of 360s there, boys. Well done.
Yeah, it's I don't know if anyone was watching, but it looks like the 86s did it at Eastern Creek too after the race start. So we had 3 cars follow each other into the scene. Unfortunately, a couple of cars come together. So it's kind of a bit of a concertina effect. But yeah, once you're in the dirty air, you really kind of follow the car. So wherever that goes, you're probably going to go too. So it'll drag you there. But unfortunately for Blacko, he dropped 1 spot, but he didn't lose out too much at the moment. So that might have given Rugworth a little bit of breathing room there. But Mickey's is doing pretty solid at the moment. But as always, Matt, and Viper are unstoppable. And Matt has just obviously found something in that Honda that no one else really has at the moment. But yeah, he's doing an outstanding job around here, putting in fastest lap with a 1 minute 10.9 as well. So that's incredible.
Wow. That's incredible pace there for Matt. Absolutely. So we probably might be looking at about a 70-second lap for the main series boys, hopefully, and then obviously maybe somebody in the Honda like a Woods or a Speedy or even It's Racing himself, he might be able to find himself. So might be able to find a 69-second lap. I mean, no sexual content here, Papa. Don't jump in the don't jump in the YouTube chat and muck around with us. But yeah, but I mean, lap times here are pretty quick, and if you get the right setup on the car, you might be able to find that kind of lap time, and that would be an astonishing achievement.
Yeah, I like. It's definitely a quick lap. I mean, if you get it right, it really feels nice. Like I did a couple of laps last night after I got home from Supercars, and I tell you what, mate, I was tired, but yeah, I put a few laps in and I did a really solid quick lap, and it felt amazing. But yeah, I don't know. It's just the setup may come into play pretty heavily here at the moment, but don't rule out the Lexuses or the Nissans as of yet.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, I don't think anyone really rules them out. For sure. I mean, we've got really good drivers in our series. We've got like Rid1 F1 for the RoboSport Racing. He might be able to throw in a surprise. SDRT Wiseacre as well. Might be able to throw in a few surprises in the Nissan, and maybe EBM Brandosa as well. So in the 34 EBM Elite Brake Mechanical Nissan GTR. So anything can happen amongst the rest of the field, but it'll be one to catch for Woods and Speedy Tyres in the CP Motorsports. But we're on our final lap here, coming through Hawthorne Bend for the final time. Matt, definitely untouchable. Had almost a 20-second victory over Sir Slade, but he's got a little bit more of a challenge in Viper, finishing at about 6.5 to 6.3 seconds gap.
Yeah, he's certainly found something there. I can't keep saying it, but I just can't stop saying it. It's just the amount of speed that Matt can find out of a car compared to other people is just like something incredible. But big congratulations to Matt taking out line honours and the round win here at the lovely Brands Hatch circuit, and Viper Z coming across in second place with Duram in third and Nightwalker in position 4. So the top 3 kind of spread out a little tiny bit there, or even top 4, top 5 even. So they kind of all really race their own race. But yeah, it's just incredible. I think I saw Robbo say that these guys are really, really fast. So like maybe we might need to boot some drivers out of TS2 into the main series because of how quick they are. But yeah, we might be a bit of a shake-up next year.
Well, like I said, if you look at the guys like Nightwalker 964, you could say if it wasn't for Matt, Viper, or Duran 50 who made their debuts in TS2, he'd definitely be the guy that everyone would want to be chasing, and maybe the racing would be a bit closer. But I guess in a way, Matt, Viper, and Duran, they're just in a class of their own in the TS2 amongst the TS2 field. So they definitely show it on the track in all categories they run, whether it is Formula 2 or Porsche Cup or even in the TS2 Championship. They're just the dominant factors in the Trackstars Racing Series community. But nonetheless, it is a clean sweep of pole positions and wins and even fastest laps for Matt there. So big congratulations to Matt Simmons in the 89 BCG Racing Honda NSX there, and taking out the clean sweep of victories and line honours. So big ups for him. Unlucky for Viper to not get closer to him and maybe put on a race that we wanted. But I guess in a way, like we said plenty of times, or he said plenty of times, that Matt's got the edge over him in the touring cars.
Yeah, I think really he said that from the beginning. It was obviously very close when they were both in the Nissan, but once they've now kind of merged and jumped ship of both of them being in the NSX and the Lexus, it's definitely shown what the different paces like. But I'd definitely like to see Matt in the Lexus to see what he can do in that, because I might be able to take a few pointers from him. But yeah, so
Exactly. Oh, it'd be pretty hard to persuade Jarman to run him in the Lexus. I think one change is enough for him. So I don't think he wants to learn a new car, unfortunately. Oh well.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Viper on the grid today, and I said Matt's really got his head around that NSX, and he goes, "Yeah, he does, and it's very very worrying." So I think he didn't really have his head around it at Monza. He was really struggling there, as we probably saw from the results. But I think it might have been easier for Viper to jump from the Nissan to the Lexus because they're roughly around about the same. Obviously, being the FR, and the Nissan is kind of the more overall stable car to kind of set up and stuff like that. But yeah, it's Matt's definitely got his head around that. So he was very, very, very scared to see Matt in that Honda and what he can do, which obviously is shown tonight.
Absolutely, and I think the only challenges to Matt in the Honda has definitely been the likes of Diswood won in the CP Motorsports. So definitely had a great, astonishing battle to conclude the Bathurst 1000 earlier on, and just Matt couldn't find a way past Diswood. So he definitely found a challenger, and Diswood won, but unfortunately hasn't been able to find a challenger in the Honda NSX here in TS2. The only closest one is in the Lexus in Viper Z, and Duran 50 in the Nissans, but unfortunately, but fortunate for him, he took the clean sweep, and he is going to be more than happy with that. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be happy with that, and I know Viper's going to be happy with that P4 and P2 there after. I don't know how much practice he had because he was at the track Friday, yesterday, and today, so he didn't really get much practice over the weekend. But he'll definitely be trying to work out ways to take Matt off that top step. But yeah, it's very solid race by all there. Pretty clean, no big errors there. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty good.
Awesome stuff. Awesome performance by our drivers tonight here. The big ups go to Matt in the BCG Racing Car 89 for taking a clean sweep of victories and the pole position and the fastest lap here. So Woodsy's going to get his big trap card, big broom trap card out on the Discord ready. Hopefully you've got that ready, bud. But big ups for Matt and for the rest of our TS2 drivers. Thanks for joining in, and thanks for our viewers for joining in this evening. So stay tuned within the next hour. We have the main series, the Elite Breaker Mechanical touring cars. Got to tackle this out. 3 13-lapper races. I hope you're looking forward to that, DJ and Jarman. But on behalf of the TS2 boys and for us in the commentary box, we thank